If you're struggling to figure out why anxiety is hitting you so hard, or why some coping strategies work for your friends, but they don't work for you, today is the day for you to find out what that's all about, and you're not alone. What I decided for my 5-year anniversary month is to showcase different episodes that I've had over these 5 years, because especially if you're a new listener, you're probably not going to go back and listen to 200 other episodes, but I want to showcase them and show different things. And so I came up with a way to sort of categorize different ways that people navigate through anxiety. And I came up with 4 different types of navigation styles. And I also created a quiz that when you answer the questions, you can find out which one of these 4 styles is most like you. And I created a Spotify playlist that has episodes of mine that fit for that style, and it gives you tips and tricks that you can use for your specific style. And I put some music on there too that it's not even necessarily music that I like. It's just music that kind of fits for that personality type. And so either you'll experience some new music that maybe you haven't heard before, find some new favorites. Maybe you'll be like, "Ugh, I don't like this song," but the podcast episodes will be good even if you don't like the music. I just thought it would be so fun to do. And so if you are interested afterwards, or even stopping this, going, taking it and coming back, either way it will work because you'll learn about the 4 styles. And if you're just going to listen and watch today, that's fine. And maybe you can just sort of think about which one seems like you and then go take the quiz later and get the playlist. So, or I even thought of this as knowing this is the way I am when I take a quiz and it says that I'm something, but I really feel like I might be some of the others. If anyone's like, I just want all 4 playlists because I want to know, what are the episodes for all of them and what are the songs for all of them, just let me know and I'll send them all to you. But I just think that this is a fun way to celebrate that my 5 years, and a fun way to kind of put all of these episodes together because there's just so many, and it's hard for anyone to really, it becomes overwhelming. And I don't want my podcast to be overwhelming. Obviously, I want you to be calm and feel good. So this is a way for you to like go, like, get a kind of like a guide for which ones you should listen to. And understanding your personal anxiety navigation style will just help you manage anxiety. And that's what this whole podcast is about. So we're going to go over the 4 different types, and they are the thinker, the doer, the feeler, and the dreamer. And for each one of those, I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to tell you some statistics about that particular type, and then some actionable strategies that I have taught somewhere in my program or in my podcast. I pretty much everything that's in my program is in my podcast. The great thing about the program is you get to work with me face to face, and we get to work through your own real life situations with the techniques. But just like with podcasts that I've learned from, sometimes I listen to a podcast and they tell how to do something. I'm like, okay, I'm going to practice that or try that in my life or in my business, and I do those things, but then later I'm like, I actually just want to work with that person so that they can, like, I love this way, it was helpful to me, and I just want their eyes on my life and helping me. And so then I just get into their programs or coaching. And so you are always able to do that too. After you hear something and you're like, I love that, I want you to help me with my specific problem, come on in, I would love to help you with that. So each of these are kind of just different ways that people deal with anxiety. So the first one is the thinker. And so the thinker, these are people who obviously like to analyze things. They want to ruminate and think about something for a while. And so when anxiety strikes, their first instinct is to dive into the why and the how. Why is this happening? How is this happening? How can I deal with it? And just like going through a whole bunch of processes in their mind. They want to understand the root cause of anxiety. They want to dissect all of their thoughts and are constantly kind of spinning around in those. And they want to find a logical solution. And so this can be cause paralysis with them because they become overwhelmed with like the what ifs and the hows and the, just spin around and all of those things. And because our brain, every human brain has about 60,000 thoughts a day. Some of us pay attention to them more than others, but a thinker would really pay attention to those 60,000 things or try to. And it just becomes overwhelming because they're trying to dissect all these thoughts and then they just get so overloaded that they become paralyzed. And you will probably find yourself in all of these as I did as I was putting this together. But there are people that are definitely more thinkers than others. And statistics say that according to the National Institute for Mental Health, individuals with more analytic, cognitive style or thinking styles of dealing with really all challenges, they are often prone to rumination because they want to be in their brain and they're thinking about a lot of stuff. And we have all those thoughts in there anyway. And anxious thoughts are very uncomfortable and scary sometimes. And this is actually a key component in generalized anxiety disorder. Now, I don't diagnose people in my program. I just help people manage whatever anxiety they have. But generalized anxiety disorder is a diagnosis that a therapist could diagnose you or a doctor could diagnose you with. And sometimes medication is part of that. But so, because rumination is kind of a main component of generalized anxiety disorder, it would make sense that thinkers ruminate and there's an anxiety component to that. So here's a few things you could try to help you if you're a thinker with anxiety. So the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique, we've talked about this before in the podcast and probably even practiced it, but first, you think about 5 things you can see. So when you're feeling that anxiety come over you, and especially if you think it's going to kind of like start paralyzing you, you need to ground yourself in the present. And actually, I can't reach it from here, but I have a physical survival kit that you can create that has things for all your 5 senses, which is what the 5-4-3-2-1 thing is about your senses, which ground you to the present. Because when you think about it, anxiety is either about past rumination about things you said or did, or future rumination about the what ifs or the uncertainty. And so we want you to stay here right now because if you think about it, in this very second, you are safe. Everything is fine. We don't have to worry about the next minute or the last minute. It's like right now, we're fine. And that helps to ground you. But 5-4-3-2-1, 5 things you can see. So you look around and you like focus on 5 different things you can see, 4 things you can feel, and that can be, feeling the desk or the arms of the chair you're in, or feeling the weight of your bottom on the seat, or feeling your feet on the floor, feeling the fabric of your clothes, just different things like that. 3 things you can hear. And sometimes, like my office is super quiet right now. No one is in my house. I'm the only one here. And so if I really listen, I can hear the ticking of the clock, but that is about it. And then if the air came on, I would hear that. Or if someone, was here and they were walking around or whatever. 2 things you can smell. And that one I think is sometimes hard to do because I guess if I really think about it, I could maybe smell paper smell because I have a lot of paper in here, kind of like book smell. Oh, and I have an air freshener in here, so I do smell that. And then one thing you can taste. And sometimes that one's hard. That's why I like my survival kit because it has some nuclear warheads. Those are really sour candies, or you could have cinnamon candies in there or gum in there, anything that would just have a taste to it and, bring you into the present. But usually the more shocking taste, like a super sour or super hot taste, is good. And then scheduling worry time. because you're a thinker and you want to think about stuff, but you don't want to just be spinning in it all day long because you won't get anything done, schedule a worry time, which is just a 15-minute time frame that you set the timer. I'm going to worry at 4 o'clock for 15 minutes. And so at 4 o'clock, you make sure that this is a time you can actually sit down and worry, so you'll change it depending, but don't make it right before bed. And I don't like to make it right in the morning because it kind of gets your day started off blah. So I would say just some mid time after school or work, before supper or doing other things so that you can kind of get out of that rumination time. But you just set a timer and, anytime a worry pops up, any time of the day, you just either write it down or make a note or make a voice note and say, okay, 4 o'clock or whatever your time is, I'll worry about that then. And what you'll actually find is when that time comes, you'll either not care about that thing anymore. You'll be like, oh, whatever, that wasn't that big of a deal, or you then give yourself time to worry about it and, with the what ifs and the whatever. But when the time is up, then you're done and you wait until the next time that it's worry time. And you can have one every day, but it's only 15 minutes. And also challenge your thoughts. So ask yourself those questions that we've talked about before, but is this 100% true? Like if you're thinking, well, everyone hates me, or I don't have any friends, or I don't fit in, or whatever, is that 100% true? And I can guarantee you nothing is 100% true. You're going to have those glimmers where that wasn't true. And then think about, okay, so what if, I actually do fit in, or what if people do like me? And at least make it a 50-50. Maybe there are some people that don't like you. There's some people who don't like me. And that's fine. The majority of the people do. Or even just make it like, okay, well, these people don't like me, but these people do. Or I don't fit in sometimes in these circles, but I definitely fit in these circles, or, at this time, or this person, or whatever. So just trying to make it more balanced and reframing all of the negative, like never and should and whatever, to things that feel better. And then we have the doer. So the doer navigates anxiety by taking action. And so they don't like to sit still with their feelings. They want to get up and they want to clean, they want to exercise, they want to work, they want to organize. They like to distract themselves and feel productive. And that can be effective. Like I don't want you to always distract, because we've got to deal with our emotions and our feelings, and we've got to sit with being uncomfortable. But we don't want to always be doing that. And sometimes we're at work, or sometimes as a parent, we've got to get something done. And, we feel anxious or upset or whatever, but we still have to do the work anyway, because that's just life. And so sometimes we do need to distract ourselves, or, move away from that feeling and then feel it later. And so because you're a doer, we're going to need to find some things that help you to manage your anxiety that's active. And exercise is a proven tool. The research from the Harvard Medical School shows that 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise can be effective as an anti-anxiety, can be as effective as anti-anxiety medications. And I love that they mentioned moderate intensity. So just like walking around, shuffling your feet probably isn't going to be as effective as anti-anxiety medication, but doing something where you kind of get sweaty, you get out of breath, your heart has to beat pretty fast, those things can be helpful to you. Is really connected. We talked about fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. And so fight and flight are connected with doer, because they either want to fight against the anxiety by doing, being busy and doing tasks, or flight, which means physically moving away from the anxiety and staying busy, kind of in those ways too. So some of the tips that I want to tell you if you're a doer is you're going to channel your anxiety. So when you feel anxious, it's okay if you are a doer, or if this is, if you need physical activity, to go for a brisk walk, or to organize a messy drawer, or to do 10-minute yoga, something, something that moves your body. And again, we don't want to always distract all the time and never feel our feelings, because even though that's what we'd like to do, because we don't want to be uncomfortable, we do need to feel them and we do need to process them. But in those times where you can at that time, or you need to have some movement first, it's totally fine to go for a walk while you're maybe processing some of that anxiety, or if organizing or a more movement like yoga type thing is good for you. And then use the one thing rule. So if you feel overwhelmed or you have like this big project, instead of thinking about the whole picture and how overwhelming that is, think about what's one thing I can do right now that will move me forward towards whatever it is that I want to do. People who want to start exercising but feel like they can't make themselves go to the gym, you can start with one thing like put your exercise shoes on, go drive towards the gym. I don't know, like those things that kind of just get you going in the right direction. A lot of times that'll be enough to push you over to actually do the thing. But anytime, like if you're thinking about homework or something like that, just do one page. Just read one page. What is something you absolutely can do? And then after you do that, then how do you feel after that? And then having a purposeful pause. So a lot of times when you are a doer, you're just up being busy all the time just to be busy so that you don't have to feel anything. At some point, you are going to need to feel it. So have a purposeful pause, have a purposeful rest where at this time, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes. I'm going to journal for 5 minutes. I'm going to read a chapter in a book. I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes and I'm going to sit and do nothing and just allow yourself to feel for a minute. And that's okay too. And it's actually good for doers because the doers are always doing and they're not feeling things and you need to feel it. Then we have the feelers, the people that want to feel everything instead of being active, physically active, which is, I think this one is me. I need to take my quiz. But I do think I'm a feeler. But the feeler connects with anxiety on a deeper emotional level, and they are often highly empathetic. Empathy is one of my top five strengths. That's actually why I'm good at what I do. So that makes sense. And people who have empathy usually absorb the feelings of other people around them. So it can be very tiring and exhausting to be feeling everyone's feelings all the time. And so when we are anxious, a lot of times, well, I'm calling myself a feeler for sure, and I'm pretty sure this is right. But when a feeler feels anxious, they cry, they seek comfort from someone. Sometimes I tell my husband, "Can you just hold me? Can you just, and that's all I want. I don't want to talk. I don't want them to talk. I just want him to hold me." Or just experience their feelings in lots of ways openly. And their strength is that they do process their emotions a lot of the time and like processing their emotions. But sometimes we can get stuck in our emotions and then we're not out doing things or, trying to move forward. So a study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found a strong correlation between high empathy and a predisposition to anxiety. Now, I don't have diagnosable anxiety. Anxiety doesn't get in the way of my life, but I probably do experience a pretty high level of anxiety and it just feels normal to me because I do feel the feelings of all of the people. And so that probably always heightens my anxiety. And that's not a weakness to have these things. Like, we just have to make sure that we boundary set better. And I do have to work on that or try to not be a people pleaser so much because that's when we get like overwhelmed with all of that. So, one of the things that can help a feeler is to name it to tame it. And we've talked about that in some other podcast episodes, but it's actually saying to ourselves, I feel anxious. I feel sad. I feel frustrated. I feel annoyed because, or, this situation, like talking it out and naming it and labeling it, because just saying it out loud and labeling it helps to lessen that uncomfortable feeling. And then expressive journaling, and I love journaling, and I've done all sorts of different types of journaling, and you can just find the one that works best for you. But just writing your feelings down with judgment, that thought download, just writing everything your brain thinks right now, and just writing it all down and then looking through it. And, it kind of helps you to realize, oh, this is why I'm feeling this way. I was thinking this. I also sometimes journal as if God is talking to me. So, how would God talk to me about this situation? And it's amazing, like what I write, because later I read it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that to myself, or that God said that to me. And find your safe space. So, like I said, I sometimes just ask my husband to hold me. He's my safe space. He's the person that makes me feel like I can feel all my emotions and it's all good. You need to have a person, whoever that is, a parent, a friend, a spouse, a coach, somebody that can hear all of your things and allow you to feel and just be there and be safe. You can feel safe in your emotions. And then we have the dreamer. And I think I'm this one too, a little bit, because futuristic is one of my top five strengths. And so I'm always dreaming about the future and what's next or whatever. But people who are dreamers navigate anxiety by escaping into their imagination. So it might be daydreaming, but they might get lost in a good book. They might get lost in a movie. They might create things out of their imagination through their anxiety. I remember I haven't done this for a really long time because I don't have such strong emotions like I did when I was a younger person, like as a teenager. But I remember I would just listen to really sad music and that doesn't really have anything to do with anxiety, but I think anxiety brings out sadness in me. And so I would just listen to really sad songs and I would cry it out and I would like just go to sleep listening to the sad music. And usually when I woke up, then I was like, okay, I let it all out. It's all gone. Sometimes I've listened to sad music in the shower and just cried in the shower and it's just a way for me to have relief from my anxiety or my uncomfortable feelings. Research shows that engaging in a beloved hobby or a creative pursuit can significantly reduce cortisol, the stress hormone levels, and the practice of constructive daydreaming, where you let your mind wander and explore possibilities, is linked to increased creativity and problem solving skills. So I love that. So create with intention. Creation is a great way to process emotions. And so, writing a song about something you're anxious about, or drawing a picture, or writing a poem or journaling about that thing, being intentional with your creation, creating a digital artboard about your anxiety could be. I haven't done it digitally, but when I used to have bigger emotions when I was a younger person, I used to like to make collages, like taking magazines and cutting out pictures and gluing them on, but you can do that digitally now. A vision board for calm. So make a vision board for things that are calming to you, things that make you feel peaceful and safe and happy, vacation pictures or family or pictures of your pets or anything that takes your mind to a positive place is good for a daydreamer. And schedule a reality check. So people who have their head in the clouds all the time, and I am very much like that. I need to be brought to reality sometimes. I need to be like, okay, you dreamed about all this stuff, you did all these things, but like where the thinkers were scheduling a worry time, dreamers are going to schedule a reality time. And you're just going to dedicate 15 minutes to like really looking at what you need to look at in your life, the things that aren't working. Okay, what's not working and what do I need to do? This isn't a shame time. This isn't a time to bully yourself or beat yourself up. It's just like, okay, this isn't working. What do I need to do? Or maybe the reality is you just need to pay a bill, or you need to contact three people to get a job, or you need to make a difficult. I know you don't make phone calls if you're a young person very much, but maybe as, a parent or educator, you need to make that difficult phone call or you need to send that difficult message to the person or you need to say no to something that you don't want to say no to because you don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but you don't want to do it. So you schedule that reality check instead of that. So the reality time instead of the worry time. Remember, nobody is just one style. I'm sure you're a mix of all four. And like I said, after you take the quiz and you get your playlist for your particular style, if you're like, I want to know what all of them are, just tell me, just email me, and I'll send them all to you. The most important thing is just that you realize that there are unique ways that different people handle and manage anxiety, and that no one's way is right or wrong or good or bad. There's ways that you need to manage it, maneuver it, things that you need to put in place to help you with that. But there's nothing wrong with any of those things. And anxiety is just a normal emotion that every single person has. Now, like I said, they may not be diagnosable, they may not take medication for it, but every single person has anxious thoughts and they just have to figure out how to deal with them. And today you learned four different styles of ways that people deal with it and different techniques that go with each one. And if you take the quiz, you'll get a playlist to kind of help you with other episodes I've done to help with those particular styles. And I just like, subscribe, share. I want lots of people to know about this. And I want to grow my audience so that more and more people know about these anxiety managing techniques. So I'll talk to you soon.